All right, we're back, and Matt, you had something you want to say? You went into
we just
a quick commercial break.
Quick commercial break. The beer sponsor of my pad at least is Star Hill, and I just cracked into a Northern Lights IPA. I've had this one before, and I must say it's significantly better than the Grateful Pale Ale.
The Grapefruit Pale Ale. All right, I gotta reach back into the magic.
No, the grape.
And you know what? I'm going to go with the Morning Glory here. This is espresso stout. I don't know who makes this actually. Old Dominion. That's out here. In Delaware. So I'll tell you guys how this tastes. They're pretty good. Actually, I like Old Dominion.
With it, when you drink an espresso stout, I mean, you get like caffeinated and drunk at the same time, or what?
We're going to find out. If I start getting jittery, start something on talking to you guys. If I get jittery and slurring my words at the same time.
Can't sit still through this one. We know what's going on.
You're right. Yes.
It's like beer's version of a Red Bull vodka.
Yeah, basically. Ooh.
All right.
Nice.
What we got next, Trav?
All right, so the next topic. We're changing gears from the MMA. Well, somewhat. And we're going to talk about some people that we actually know. Raymond Daniels and Michael Page. They've become very successful in venturing outside of speed fighting. So Raymond is doing well on Glory. I think he's 2-1. And Michael Page is, I think, 6-0, I believe, in MMA. And he's on Bellator. He was on the last Bellator pay-per-view fight. Opening one, knocked the guy out in the first round. So my question is, do you guys think they will rise to the level of being champions in their respective sports? So will Michael Page become a champion inside of either Bellator or UFC or whatever MMA he decides to be, or one of the upper echelon ones? And do you think Raymond will rise to be a champion in Glory kickboxing? Either one of y'all want to go first with that question?
I guess I can go first. So I could probably spend all night talking on this one, but I'll say it's yet to be determined. I think both of them have the talent to be able to do it, but it's whether they adapt enough to the sports in which, or the fighting style in which they're going to be doing, that will determine whether they're going to be a champion or not. Both of them have, I think, in my opinion, one of the best foundations to be able to fight, but they definitely need to adapt to each specific style of fighting. Raymond being stand up with a mixture of knees, leg kicks, a little bit of clinch work, full contact. Michael Page, throw even more in there. You've got jiu-jitsu, wrestling, takedowns, all of the above. With Raymond, I think you saw it in his last fight. When he fought Valentini back in December, you saw what a very traditional Muay Thai style of kickboxer was going to do. He stood in front of him. He leg kicked him until he basically had his openings. And it was a style that it seemed like Raymond wasn't used to fighting. Raymond made the adjustments and did really well in his last fights. I'd love to see him fight. Some guys are going to be in that upper echelon of competition and to continue down that road. But it's really, he needs to take the things that he's well at when it comes to speed fighting, adapt them to that more full contact style. And if he can blend those two styles together, I think he's going to be extremely hard to beat. Michael Page is the same thing. Michael Page is a little bit younger than Raymond as well. Michael Page has a little bit more to learn just because there's more to learn in MMA. Mm-hmm. I think if Michael Page gets a good base when it comes to wrestling, I haven't seen a guy that he's fought that's really tried to put the straps to him, put their face in the middle of his chest and try to drive him to the ground. He's done a really good job of having people fight his style of fighting. I want to see a guy that really sticks to his guns and fight Michael Page and really, test Michael. Have him go against some top-level competition. I think he's earned the right to be able to do that. But, I think if they both continue to evolve, they can both get to that level. They both have that type of talent. So,
do you think it will happen? I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to put you on the hot seat right now. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you think about that one for a second. I'm gonna let Matt go first, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, coming from a sport karate kind of pedigree, if you will, definitely rooting for these guys to be successful. I think it's good for our sport that we all love and all that. But not to belabor the point, I agree with Greg. I think can they? Yes. They've achieved very high levels in sport karate, and the thing about a high-level athlete is that what it takes to be successful. I mean, a high-level athlete can be successful in anything they want to do if they apply the same discipline. So can they? Absolutely. Are they going to? I don't know. Raymond, Raymond knocked this guy out, in a flashy way, his last fight, created a lot of hype. The guy was, pretty much out of it when he hit him with that kick already because Raymond caught him with the hands in an earlier exchange.
Right.
So, I mean, that fight to me didn't really say a lot about where Raymond's at in that style of fighting. What was more telling to me was the previous fight when, the guy, kind of to use Greg's analogy with the MMA side, was really sticking to his guns. He kept his hands up high, kept his guard up. He was hitting him with a lot of leg kicks, which obviously in sport karate, sport karate fighters aren't used to that. And it took its toll on Raymond. So I saw some things that just fundamentally makes me question the type of training that Raymond is doing. I don't know if Raymond is training to focus on full contact kickboxing. He was doing some very fundamental things incorrectly, such as swatting at leg kicks. You start swatting at leg kicks, you can get knocked out. Conversely, Michael Page, obviously a great stand-up fighter, but to Greg's point, has he been put in there with a really good wrestler? Is he training wrestling? You don't have to be a good wrestler necessarily to take people down. If Michael doesn't want to submit people or play ground and pound, he doesn't have to. But you have to become an excellent wrestler to be successful in MMA, if nothing else, to keep the, fight on the feet. So I would have to know how these guys are training to really answer that. Based on what I've seen, I can't fairly answer the question, though, to be honest with you. Can they? Yeah. Will they? I don't know. I really don't.
Okay. I'm gonna weigh my 2 cents in right now. Let me take a drink real quick. All right. I think it is more likely that Michael Page does it before Raymond. And the reason why I'm saying that is because he's actually, 6-7 years younger than Raymond? And he's closer to his prime than Raymond is. Like, Raymond's at 34 now. So he's getting to that point where you're not going to be you're not as fast as you once were. You'll still be as strong as you were, but it really is going to take a lot more work to be able to compete at that high level and get to the highest level and switch sports like he's doing right now. So that's why, but I'm really amazed at what he's doing because he's knocking people out at the same time, and he's making a name for himself. And I saw from this latest fight, he actually made the switch, and he wasn't reaching for that particular the leg kicks. But what I also saw from his second fight to his third fight was it's completely different, but it's just a completely different level of talent that he fought. But after his first round against I think it was Valentine, right? Raymond came back to the ring, and back to the corner, and I looked at him. I said, he looks tired. He looked a little winded. Yeah. And I think he was trying too hard for the first round knockout, maybe. I think he wasn't pacing himself. I think he was flying in right out the gate at the guy because let's be honest. You put us in the ring with somebody and it's $100,000 on the line, I'm gonna be trying like hell to knock you out. So I think that's where he was at with that. His mind was like, I gotta get this guy out of the way so I can get to the main fight, the $100,000 fight. And I think that's where he messed up. He didn't pace himself. And after the first round, those leg kicks, Valentine started tearing his legs up, and he was too tired to even really move as much as he wanted to, because the first round he was moving. Second round he was standing there, and those leg kicks was tearing his butt up. And then in the third round, he ended up losing. But the next match, he looked more calm, he looked more relaxed, and he was picking the shots. And he picked the guy, and he caught that guy when they did they made that wild exchange in the corner, and he ended up catching the guy and dropping him. And then the guy never really fully recovered, and then he was almost on SportsCenter after that. Michael Page looked more. I watched his last fight, the Bellator fight. He looked more relaxed, and this is his sixth fight, and he's still confident in everything. And I want to see how he's going to do. When, like you guys said, when somebody gets him on the ground, I want to see him when he goes to the next level of, because fair or not fair, since Raymond is popular and a lot of people know him and a lot of people like him and everything, he's very personable, very likable. And when he did the MMA fight, for his first MMA fight, they put him in somebody who was a seasoned vet to get him down on the ground. His second glory kickboxing fight was against a seasoned kickboxer. He's going against upper echelon fighters. But Michael Page has not gone against an upper echelon fighter yet in MMA. You know what I mean? So he's still climbing. They're bringing him along, right? They just kind of threw Raymond's ass out there. And it was kind of like bold why they did him, but they just kind of threw him out there. All right, and see how he responded. So I think it's more likely that Michael wins it before Raymond does. I think Raymond will get a shot, but I also think Raymond will win that $100,000 tournament. Whenever they do that welterweight challenge again for the tournament and four people or whatever, 4-man tournament, I think Raymond will win that one before Michael wins the championship. But I still think Michael will win the championship before Raymond. Any thoughts from what I?
Let me throw something back. So you take the Michael Page and getting down. Do you think Michael Page had more experience when it comes to like a kickboxing, a point fighting, a speed fighting type of background than somebody like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like a Pat Barry?
I think he
look
does.
at those guys and what they've done in the UFC. You think he does? Okay.
I think he does.
They haven't had nearly as much success.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. And I think when it comes to Michael, I think he's going to win. I think he's going to eventually win Bellator's title. Now, switching that over to the UFC, I didn't say all that. I mean, I don't know how, that's. I think he still has a shot at it. I still think he has a very good shot at it. But I have to see him fight somebody and control somebody. Getting out, like you said, he doesn't have to be able to submit somebody or, roll with him to be the best wrestler. But he does know he needs to get out of it. Just the same way, Matt Brown got out of Silva's hold at the beginning of the match. Because Silva had him all tied up. And then, for whatever reason, Matt Brown found a way to get out of that they were wrestling around for like 3 minutes.
We're going to get to that.
And then he gets up. That's right. We ain't got to that yet. Anyway. We're going to talk about that. But, let me shut up then. I talk right now before we get off topic. Anything, Matt?
No, I wish the guys luck and, just I hope they're training right because Sport Cry doesn't translate over to that realm perfectly.
There you go. Greg, anything else before we move on?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Matt said, man. It's fun watching those two guys too. And we've had conversation with those guys at tournaments, and it really is. It's fun and it's impressive watching them on the biggest scale for that sport to be having as much success that they've had, and to see people that we know and trained and competed against going out there and doing the things again. Wish them all the best of luck in the world, and hope that they win the next fights moving forward.
All right, so let's go on to the next one, which we're still staying in that same little area, though. What speed fighter, sport karate fighter, whatever you guys want to call it these days, I prefer speed fighter. What speed fighter can make the transition into full contact, like kickboxing or MMA, that we know of, that you just seen and say, you know what, I think they'll be good at it. They have that mentality to do it. Because if you guys, I thought I was talking to my uncle a couple months ago, and I was like, you know what? I looked at some of the people who went into kickboxing, and I was just like, I never would have thought that particular person would have went to kickboxing, because I would remember them as a young person, and they did speed fighting, and they just they just weren't. He was like, you gonna jump into it? Like, all right. But then I saw some other people, and I was like, my God. So like, okay, I can see them doing it. And they can have some success in it. But then I saw some other people, and it's like, oh, you're actually, I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to dog the people out. But I'm just saying, so what person do you think in the speed fighting universe can actually make a jump and be successful at one of these other sports, martial arts sports? Greg, you start.
It's funny you bring this up. Like, I feel like speed fighting and point fighting or sport karate or whatever you want to call it is getting so far away from kickboxing and MMA. I just watch some of the fighting now. It's off balance. People are throwing wild techniques. People are throwing things where they have absolutely no ability to follow or have proper footwork or technique, and all of those things are getting you so far away from being successful in boxing and MMA because it's not the person who hits first. It's the who hits the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and so on, and then misses the other person's technique because they set themselves up in a good position. So the people that I look that are successful are the people that have good technique, and it's going to be the names that you have already seen and probably already think of, the Jack Feltons of the world, the Ross Levines, the people who hit hard but also just, know how to fight. I wish I could say I followed speed fighting and all that stuff enough to know a lot of the new people that come up. I watch it every occasionally. And so I don't know very much just because I feel like the sport, to be successful in speed and point fighting, I feel like you have to do the things that would not make you successful in kickboxing and MMA. And so they're kind of going in different directions right now.
Okay, Matt.
I agree, Greg. I don't. The two names you named of current speed fighters, point fighters, what we call them, were the two that came to the top of my mind. I don't keep up with the sport karate scene that much anymore, so I don't even know the point fighters out there that, to be honest with you, are winning their respective divisions right now. But Jack and Ross are two names that do come to mind because I think the way that they fight and the way that they kind of approach point fighting and keeping their feet underneath them and grounded most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, could potentially translate well. Selfishly, I'm going to point out a name of somebody who was a point fighter, is focusing actually on MMA now, but I think that he has the potential to do well if he's training right, and that's a guy, you're going to laugh, Trav, a guy that I used to go to war with and continue, a guy that I used to go to war with and continuous all the time, and that's Angel Huerta. Angel is doing well in the local scene in Houston right now. I think he's fighting for a legacy, I think is what I saw.
He actually did a boxing match recently.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
So, Angel's one of those guys who, first of all, he's a tough guy. He's got a good work ethic, all that stuff that goes along with most sport karate competitors. But I know he has been doing pretty well in his local MMA circuit, and if he's training right and kind of similar to some previous comments, if he's training wrestling and a little bit of ground game, I think he's a guy that was a point fighter that might be able to go beyond kind of the local level.
What's sad is that I agree, because Ross and Jack are the two that I thought of when I came up with this question, and I was just curious. I was just like, but it gets to a bigger point that what's wrong with the sport that we love, that we came up in, and we'll tackle that whole topic in another subject in another video, because we'll probably talk about 30 minutes on that one just alone, because when Greg said something, he said, I don't even follow, the sport karate fighters out now. And Greg, like, didn't you just stop fighting like last year? And like when you're done, it's like I'm done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Well,
I'm
was
not
last
fighting.
year,
I don't care anymore.
So
and I was the same way. Like I stopped 4 years ago, and I just it took me to what. If it wasn't my cousins fighting, I didn't turn on any of the videos and watch anybody fight or watch who was coming up or do anything. I just walked away and was done with it. And if it wasn't one of my cousins, I didn't care. I really didn't. I didn't, until maybe earlier this year, I started watching a couple more fights or popping up at tournaments or anything like that. Which that brings us to a whole nother topic that I really want to get into about just the state of our sport. And we'll talk about that later in another point, probably piss a whole bunch of other people off. But
you better have a lot.
This is my show.
So we have like no screens and like blur our voices and stuff like that. Anonymously.
And talk about a whole bunch of stuff about that. But we'll get into that later. Matt, you want to say something?
No, I was just laughing, saying you better have a long session planned for that conversation.
Yeah. That's gonna be straight. It's gonna be called real talk. Speed fighters, I understand that. Or pissing everybody off. We could come up with something that we'll talk about. So with that being said, we can go on to the next topic.